How you doing? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. We've got a cool episode coming up here. We are jumping into the new year. If you're new to the channel, we've got a ton of back catalog videos and stuff like that. So yeah, today we are going to be talking about white dominance. So
Yeah.
what do you think about that,
my
Joe?
cup of tea. Right there, brother. Right there.
Yeah.
I think, it's funny. We've talked about this. I think one of our very first episodes that you and I talked about was white supremacy.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me. This whole topic of racism is just, I don't want to say it's funny because it might offend people, but again, I don't care. The thing about it is that we're so hyper focused on the color of our skin, right? And we have to balance everything out, right? We look at the balance not of one of intellect, but we look at the balance one of color coding, right? We're more into that more of the color soft friendly palette of browns and light skin colors than we are about intellectuality, and which I think is probably a little bit more important depending on what we're, if you're working at McDonald's, it doesn't really matter. But if you're working in a career that matters, one that maybe your decision impacts a lot of people, I would care for a little bit more intellect than skin tone.
Absolutely.
But I think we've gotten so bad that in today's society, we have two types of people who think everything is racist and people who think that there is no racism, right? So like we have no idea where we fall on this spectrum. And, the white people feel like, oh my God, I can't really say this because it's racist. And black people saying I can say whatever I want because I've been suppressed for so many years, blah, blah. There's no happy medium anywhere. Meanwhile, the Mexicans are back here eating, tamales and birrias and stuff, chilling. Like, what, y'all pick a side, right? Like, we don't care. We're busy working. Where do we stand as a nation? What's important to us? What is vital in our society to make it, to kickstart it, to move forward, instead of us always hyper focused on race and color and your skin tone and whether you like the PP or not the PP, to be a PP or not to be a PP. It's just, there's so many factors in America today. You can't just be American. You can't just be like a hardworking cowboy. You can't be a hardworking individual. You can't just be a farmer. You can't just be a police officer. You have to be that white police officer or that black farmer or that, you have to add color. And to me, that we're just wasting so much resources and time in distinguishing color, and we're not focusing on the importance of running the country or putting this country back on track, right? So if you ask me, man, I think we're out of control with this whole racist thing, this whole DEIs, the all this stuff that I think the more people work on eradicating racism, the more racist we become,
right.
And it's just, I don't know. It's something that we need to figure out and figure it out soon.
We do. Well, let's get talking about this. Okay, so here we are continuing our talk about white dominance. So yeah, one of the things I've used as kind of a analogy or, an example to this is, whether you believe this happened or not, we landed on the moon some time ago, right? And
it's
an entire other episode. I would love that one. That's the tinfoil hat episode.
Mm-hmm.
So what did they say when these people landed on the moon?
One small step for mankind.
Mankind landed on the moon. It wasn't a white guy, because it was all white dudes up there, right?
Yeah, wearing white.
Wearing white. The first white people landed on the moon. That's not what they said. All of mankind. And now, the first time somebody that was black, or the first time somebody was a female, or the first time somebody was whatever, they have to make a big deal about it. And that's the problem. Exactly what you said at the intro to this episode, is that we are so hyper focused on all these like little groups, clubs, cliques, whatever you want to say. We're so hyper focused on that we forget that it's humankind. We broke a barrier of some kind. You have people that get into a certain office or whatever. Obama is a great example. There was a big deal about that because he was the first black president. And the thing that's crazy about it is that was supposed to fix everything, right? Once we have a black president, we fix everything. Well, shoot, after he got out of office, it seems like everything got worse.
He divided
right?
the country.
He divided the country more than,
But let's
anything.
not, I don't want to take away from milestone. So yes, now is it a great milestone to have the first black president as a nation? Yeah. That's a great milestone, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if that person was Mexican, I'd be like, hey, yeah, right, viva la raza, But moving forward, all right, milestone achieved, move on. Now, great American, right? This is America, land of opportunity. It's not a shocker that now we have a minority up there, but it's a great milestone. Let's move on. That's it. Leave it alone, But no, you want they start feeding into that, and and then Obama himself starts talking about just everything about being African American and this and that, and they're like, dude, this is about America,
which is crazy because it's like he's from Kenya, his parents, so it's just like the whole thing with Kamala, same deal, she was Indian from India when it served her. When it didn't serve her, she became African American, she became black, right? And now that we have, you can decide your sexual orientation and gender and all these other kind of things.
Political party.
What's somebody say, I'm like me, I say, I'm going to identify as black now. So you, how dare you to say I'm anything other than that?
Right.
And it's like, this is where we've just went too far. And here, if you go back far enough in time, right? So take like North America. What is the United States now? And if you go back far enough, there was just people of native origin here, right? And you have a ton of different nationalities of natives that were here. We're in the state of Arizona. So, there was, there's like 20 something. And I don't know if you know the number of it, but there's like 20 something tribes, in the state, and
they're all spread out.
Yeah. And they're all spread out. You have, from Hopi to what else is here? Navajo Nation. Yeah.
And one of the largest reservations. I think it encompasses a few states.
It does.
Up in northern Arizona.
Yeah. It's in the top right northern east corner. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, before anybody was here, you had these native populations, which were essentially the same people, even though they were of different tribes, right? Different tribes. They all looked the same, and they fought with each other, right? Why'd they fight with each other? Well, because
hunting territory.
Because you lived over there and we lived over here, right? And then when the white man came, the natives kind of stopped fighting as much, kind of band together because you had this new enemy that came in. And then, that group of people, the English-ish settlers are here. And then you have the old England that's coming over to try to attack them, right? And now they start fighting. Those are people of the same skin tone also. What happens is eventually, people in this that were Native American didn't know anything about people in, say, the Middle East or Africa, right? Oceans away, no way to get there. And they didn't have a reason to dislike each other because they didn't know each other, period. Once the world has advanced so much and we have air travel and we can get around, and now we have phones that we can see everything on, you have all of these countries that have such a difference amongst one another, right? And we don't like somebody because of a different language barrier, religious barrier, border barrier, the borders of their area. And then, of course, resources and things like that. Why do most wars go on? I mean, honestly, why do they go on? One
resources.
Resources is the biggest one. And, people can comment down here if you have any other different opinions to it. But the military industrial complex is really, it's all about making money, right? Going after a resource is a reason, and they can put other things in there, just like in the whole nonsense that's going on in Ukraine and everything. When you fast forward all this stuff, we have taught our kids and our people, our populace, to not like anything that's different than us, right? I mean, we can all say if somebody has a disability or something, right? And it's a really, out of the norm, a one in a multi-million disability. Not that we would make fun of that person or anything like that, but you're going to look at them, right? And go, oh, wow, what happened to them? And there's a difference there. And I don't understand why they're like that. I want to ask them questions, but I don't want to be rude about it and all this. So now you take that kind of scenario, and that's what's the difference between people that live in these different areas and that have different skin color and stuff like that. And then you have the media and everything else that pumps into it so much. One thing that all people have in common is that we all want to live a decent life. It's not so much that it's about money, it's about comfort. You want a house and or an apartment or whatever. Some people now are getting vans and just traveling around, right? Living out of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to
Not a
have
bad
enough
idea.
money. What's that?
Not a bad idea. Get off the
Oh,
grid.
can't agree more, man. It's coming soon to
Yeah.
a YouTube near you. And, you know, and taking care of our families. If you took people from, say, 5 different continents, right? Just randomly pick them out of these different countries, out of different continents, and you put them together and you say, what are your key things? I guarantee you, for the most part, those people are going to say the same thing. They want their families to be healthy. They want to have enough, whether it's money or resources, to take care of their family and live peacefully and have a good life until the end of it. Because we're only here for a finite amount of time, man, and then it's all over. It's crazy that they have instilled in so many people that everybody else is the enemy, right?
Well, here's the thing you said is very important and it's key that, we want our family to be, we want to take care of our family, move on, progress, be able to do all that stuff. But now we got to look at, because here's another part to racism is poverty levels. You have these lower income areas, and let's be honest, who goes to those lower income areas? Who lives in those lower income areas?
Low income people.
Low income people mostly end up being minorities. So the problem here is that as a society, as Americans, we want to help, right? But I think we put our resources in the wrong place. Instead of giving people stuff free, we should provide ways to encourage people to do better, to build their own growth, right? And not depend on the government, because
right.
Of course, that leads to, if you go down to the boroughs in New York, dude, it's horrible. Slums, right? And or you go downtown LA, you go to San Francisco, all these areas, and you just take a look at it. They're not doing anything to be resourceful. They're not helping these people. In fact, what are they doing? They're doing this, what they're calling aggressive landscaping or architecture, or they're putting rocks so people can't lay on the ground. They're taking benches out so they can't sit on them. They're putting these little spike decorations along, like where you have these empty windows so homeless people don't sleep in them. They're doing all these things to prevent it, but they're not doing anything to help it, right? So a lot of people want to put hand in hand racism with poverty, with being poor, with just all these things, all these contributing factors. But the reality of things is, you have poor white people, you have poor Mexicans, you have poor black, you have poor everybody. Well, maybe not Asians. Those people, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But anyway,
you know what? Surprisingly, the Asian percentage of populace is the exact same amount in percentage as white people is for poverty.
Yeah.
So remember your thought there. I'm going to give a little stat here. And so this is coming from a government website. It's America's Partner for Equal Justice. The proportion of racial ethnic groups with household incomes below 125% of poverty. Black folks make up the highest percentage at 26%, and that's any ethnicity. So it doesn't matter what African country they come from. It's just, people can underneath the black umbrella. Hispanic, same thing, under any race. So that's whether you're Mexican, Cuban, anything in there. It's 23%. So you go from 26% black, 23% Hispanic. Whites are 11%, and Asians are 11%. Again, any ethnicity. Whites could be Scottish, English, German,
and the Hispanic. Those are probably more Central and Southern America, because Mexicans will never say we live in a impoverished level, because whatever we have here is way more than we would have in Mexico. So we wouldn't, you know what I mean? We wouldn't call it poverty for us.
Well, and that's a big thing too, man. If you really think about it, is when I grew up, I mean, we grew up in the same area, right? And the area I grew up in. I was kind of
the only white folks there,
and it was not known as a place of abundance by any means. I mean, those were probably some of the cheapest houses in the area and everything. And I didn't know any different, right? And I was never told I was a poor kid or anything. The only thing I ever knew is later on in school that I had some hand-me-down clothes and things like that, like my cousins outgrew or whatever. Yeah. So they gave them to my mom to give to me. And, that's probably the only time I had any of that kind of nonsense go on. Yeah. Other than that, and somebody might say, well, it's because you're white. That's why you didn't see any of that or sense any of that. Well, my best friend from kindergarten till like 6th, 7th grade, until we went to different schools, was black. I mean, we rode our BMX bikes out in the desert and did all kinds of, stuff. And man, there was like no difference in the world. I mean, we knew we had different skin color, but our parents went to different Baptist churches, but they went to, and the thing is that's sad is that I remember later on in years, and this was heartbreaking to me, man. is that it was after we graduated high school and I caught back up with him later, and he had actually went to jail. And he was like, because of who I am and my skin color, and that's why that happened. Well, I found out what happened. He was in a car with some other guys, and there was a gun under the seat, and they had pot and stuff. And back then, of course, pot wasn't. So he went to jail, man.
Damn.
And it's like, well, it had nothing to do with your skin color. It had everything to do with decisions you made. So
that's what they feed you.
Right. Well, I had to do that because I was in the hood. We grew up in the same block.
Yeah.
Like same neighborhood.
And I don't think you ever drove around with a gun underneath your car.
No, I do now, but
back then it was back then it was a subwoofer.
Subwoofer, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's legal where we're at. So another click to so he was black, and so that would be so now there was a kid that lived 2 houses down from me. His parents were actually a little bit better off than my parents were. They had the bigger house on the block and all that. And he ended up hanging out with a lot of the Mexican gangs that were in the area. And he was white guy. He learned to speak Spanish.
Miklo.
That's blood in, blood out, buddy. So, and, he got shot twice. He ended up in jail a couple different times. And, I mean, the ending to his story, he's not with us anymore. He was found under a bridge, sadly. And
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. And I remember him saying the same thing. Oh, you know how our hood is. He said, you know how our hood is. It blew me away because I'm like, dude, your brother moved to Texas and owns businesses, did very well for himself. I grew up right across the street from you guys and I never had any of these issues. Again, it's decisions that you make. So I just gave 2 examples of 2 different races completely making similar, bad, poor decisions. And they ended up in the same kind of poor thing. Luckily, my other buddy that he doing good for himself. He runs some grocery stores and stuff now. So, thank
but
God.
Here's the thing. I think the key thing that you just mentioned in both those situations or scenarios is that there was zero accountability for their action. You want to
personal accountability, right?
Yeah.
They were held accountable, but
they were held accountable.
Were like,
personal, you're correct. Personal accountability was zero.
Wasn't me.
Right. And that's the mentality we have. We're quick to never take that responsibility. Like a circumstance is what got me.
Somebody else.
Circumstance, my race, Well, if you weren't, walking around with a pound of marijuana or of cocaine under your seat, it probably wouldn't have happened regardless of your skin color. Right.
Right.
But the point is we don't take personal accountability for things that happen to us. And it's always easier. And it's kind of like the thing that we say in a religious aspect. It's always easier to follow the path of less resistance, which is always the worst path for anybody, right? The path of less resistance is always the horrible path, the sinful path. The one where, bro, you're not going to come out of there in a good way, right? You're going to come out tainted. That is always for human nature. That is always the easiest path, or the path that we're always lured to, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, once we hit that path, we have zero accountability. We're like, this is just the path that I'm on. But no, we have life choices. And just like those paths that we pick in life and in society, it's the same path for every individual, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Mexican. We've all had these opportunities in life, and I think what makes us special, you and I, besides our good looks, is the fact that we came from a smaller town where we don't see that. Right. You see this kind of behavior more in those large cities in LA, New York, in Washington. You see all this stuff where, again, you have a vast populace where people don't like to take personal accountability for their actions. And us being so lucky growing up in a small community, we didn't have that. And strict parents, of course, that helped too. But we never really looked at anybody with, like, dude, when I used to go to the library, no one said like, oh, here comes that Mexican to come play Dungeons and Dragons. Nah, bro. They would say, here comes that crazy wizard to come play Dungeons and Dragons, bro. You know what I mean? Because I was taking everybody's. But that's how we looked at each other, man. We never looked at people like by color, by skin tone. It was more like, what you were wearing that you clicked with. Like I was wearing my OP shirts, right, with my OP shorts, or and in my Vans. And, other people were hanging out. They had their clarinets or their trumpets or whatever they were.
Right.
They were, it all was what kind of group you were with. It was never a color thing, man. I don't remember ever in high school ever looking about anything about color. I don't even remember any racial slurs happening in our high school, bro. I think everything was like more like, oh, look at, he's a dork or he's a jock or he's a, you know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah. The separation was more of activities, I would say, what you were doing.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, you know, you had your football group, you had the basketball guys, you were in wrestling too, you know, was in band, the drama people. And
they were just weird, bro. They were just weird.
The drama people.
They were fun though. But
yeah.
It was all that. And then you know, it was just, that was the society we lived in. You know, it was never about color. And I guess to me, it's difficult when I see this racism going on. It's difficult for me to understand it. And I cannot say all white people are that way, or all black people are that way, or all Mexicans are that way. I can't, because to me, it's still an individual responsibility. Yeah. You know, if people choose to be a bigot, that's on them. I don't think that we should blame an entire race because of it. And my problem with today's society is that white people are so ready to call everything racist. You know, and I'm thinking, y'all, first chill out, because y'all don't, you know, I don't know what guilt trip you're going on, but chill out. You know, you're the last people to be calling anybody racist, you know, and just chill out. And to me, it's like everybody needs to take a step back, you know, and stop fighting other people's, you know, like when they're like, oh, they don't like to be called Latinos or Latinas or Latinx. Who told you that?
Yeah.
Who nominated you to call?
There was a survey done, and it was like in the high 90 percentile that people of Mexican or Latin origin do not want to be called Latinx.
Hell no, bro. Have you noticed? They also didn't miss. They also didn't miss with like our abuelita, tapatio. No. They didn't miss any of that stuff, bro. They're like, touch our stuff, see what happens.
Touch it. Touch it.
Yeah. One time, you cut off. No more tamales for you.
Well, it's funny. So we talked about this, I think, in this episode. Like, man, this is a year and a half ago or so, or something like that. And you know, the one that bugged me a lot, because I actually like that butter, was the Land O'Lakes butter.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they took the Indian girl off of there because they said that was racist. And it's like, one is, how is, you know, honoring the Native Americans.
I think how you depict it is important.
And a comedian, I don't remember who it was, said this. He's like, yeah, it's just like us. You know, we take the native out and leave the land there on the picture of the butter, you know.
That's sad.
And if you go into a grocery store, there's no Native Americans anywhere in it. If you go into a grocery store, there's no black people anymore. Uncle Ben's is gone. Aunt Jemima, dude. Like, that was everybody's favorite syrup.
Old Pearl Mill or something like that.
Yeah, now it's Pearling Mill Company or whatever it is. And yeah, I refuse to buy it anymore, because at what point do those people say, we want our people on the bottle, right? It's kind of like the whole,
especially since Aunt Jemima really did live. She existed,
right?
The baker.
I mean, you take, like, what are they called now? The Washington Nationals or whatever, the old Redskins.
Yeah.
And so now there's no one, but I want to say that I heard that it was at least 2 tribes were putting together, like, you know, things to sign up and everything for them to bring it back, you know, because
I know there's a petition for there's a petition for the Cowboys of the world to take away the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm with that one. I'm with that petition. I'm done with them. Anyway, I had to say that. Sorry.
Yeah, there's something racist about it being. Why does it have to be cowboys? Can't be cowgirls? I mean, I guess they'd be the cheerleaders.
That's what they are right now to me.
Yeah, so that's what they are. Yeah,
don't even go.
It's cowgirls.
But no, you're right.
So
you're
then
right.
you walk, and you walk down the Hispanic or Mexican aisle, and you walk down the Asian aisle, and what's there? All those characters are there, because those two groups of people aren't complaining about that. And the thing is that they don't allow the white people to complain for them about it.
No.
You know, and say, you shouldn't have the Tapatio guy or the, you know, whatever. I'm trying to think of the Asian stuff that's on there. They're not going to take any of that away, because people culturally, that's not offensive. It's actually,
that's a representation of our people. You know,
yeah, dude.
We created the cowboys. The modern cowboy today, they come from vaqueros, right? They come from we have the mariachi. Tapatio is a vaquero. He's your typical Mexican freaking dude right there.
Imagine them taking that off. Like, his picture's gone, and they put what would they put on there? Like, what would they put on there that would make any sense? Just a picture of a taco or something like that? It's so stupid.
Jose Jalapeno. That's not
All
offensive.
right.
That's not offensive.
That's not offensive at all.
But no, you're absolutely correct. I agree with what you're saying, and we don't take offense. And a lot of people don't. It's funny. There's this kid on YouTube. He's funny. He's hysterical. And someone said like a cultural appropriation. Like he was dressed up in the sarape with a hat, and he had a fake mustache. He was celebrating Cinco de Mayo, and he was on a college campus. And they're like, they're like, yep. You can't do that. You're not Mexican, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm like thinking.
And it's all the white people saying that.
It's black people, white people.
Anybody that's not Mexican.
Right. They're like, you can't be dressed like that. You're not Mexican. I'm thinking to myself, well, first of all, why do you assume it's Mexican?
Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
But anyway, this kid's like, well, why not? So then he goes down to Olivera Street, right down in LA. And they're loving this kid.
Yeah.
And he asked him, are you offended? And I'm like, absolutely not, man. Wear it with pride, brother. You know,
and the one guy tells him, let's get you a better hat though, because that one's like a cheap hat.
Yeah. But the thing is, we're not offended by simplicity. You know, like things like that to us is like, if you're like, when we see like, if you gone onto the tickety talk and you see like all these people talking about, you know, oh man, I love Mexican food. Thank you, Mexicans, and blah, blah, blah. Like, we're not offended by stuff like that. You know, when they say those jokes, like, you know why they have tamales? Because they have to have something to unwrap in Christmas. Well, bro, I'll be happy to unwrap like 60 of them suckers. You know what I mean? You ain't hurting my feelings. You know what I mean? But it's just funny jokes. But
it's funny how all the white people want tamales.
Yeah, right. They don't want the people. They just want the food.
Yeah.
So we're not offended by like the simple things like that. It to us, if you celebrate our culture, if you take from our culture, man, we're happy to give it to you. Man, enjoy it. It's for everybody. You know, there's a saying in Mexico, a Mexican is born where he wants to be born. That doesn't mean that you're born in Mexico. You're born wherever you want. If you go down to Mexico and see the different, just the ethnicities from different people from around the world that live in Mexico, Asian people, Norwegian, Germans, all sorts of people down there. And if you talk to them, man, they love the culture, and we're okay to have them there. You know, we're like, you know who we don't like? I'm going to say this with all honesty, guys, so don't be upset at me. I'm just saying I'm translating what we're saying from down in Mexico. White folks. You know why? No, let me tell you why. There's a reason. Not that we don't like them because they're white, but let me tell you why. They go down there and then they want to take our culture. When I say take our culture, is like they'll have, you know, Alicia's and Ramon's restaurant that's been there for 20, 25 years that play mariachi music every day. And because they bought
music down,
because they bought a house next door, I don't like that music. You need to tear it. You know, they want to change how we live.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Karen makes her way down to
Mexico. So that is what's causing a lot of disruption with our culture right now, and the Americans, us, is that we, you know, it's funny, they come over here and we get mad at them for them. You need to learn how to speak English, boy. You know, but then we go down there's like, you need to put down that Mexican music in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like, dude, let's, you know what I mean? So we have to be conscientious about each other's feelings, not in the sense we're all delicate walking on eggshells. But first and foremost, people come from different backgrounds, whether they're born here or they're not. I was born in the United States. I'm 100% American, but my background is Mexican, right? That's my culture. Right. So I have a lot in my culture. I know a lot of things about my culture. I love my culture. Doesn't mean I don't celebrate my culture just because I'm a hardcore American. Right. I respect my culture and I respect it. And I will draw blood to protect my country. But if you mess with some Mexicans, the Mexican in me is coming out. You know, so what I'm saying is that we have to adapt to different cultures. Right. There's some people that come from Germany. Right? That how they cook the sausages, we might not like the smell, right? But that's just their culture. And we have to accept things like that because this is what America is. We're a big melting pot of different societies from different regions of the world, not just of America, but of the world. You know, you could go across country and you're living totally different than you would on the West Coast.
Right.
Right? Go down south, totally different than up north. Right. Yep, you know that your mom's from the South, your family's from the South. Yep. You know that cooking way different than cooking in California, way different than food on the East Coast, right? Where it's more seafood. Right. So,
well, I have such a contrast, you know, my mom her side of the family being from the Texas, Alabama area, and then my dad's side of the family being from like Northern California, Oregon area.
Oh, you got that good mix.
Just that's a completely
and then being raised in Southern Cali, bro.
Yeah.
You got that good
totally,
mix.
dude. Totally.
Dude, no, well, you got all that good mix. See, my dad comes from straight down Mexico. My mom is from the South. So, and then I was born in Cali. So,
yeah, so you're the Tex-Mex.
I'm the Tex-Mex part of it. You know what I mean?
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, bro. So, we grew up eating all kinds of Mexican food, but also Southern food. The Southern fried chicken.
Yeah,
my mom.
That is the best combo, man. The Tex-Mex food, dude.
Oh, I love it. The best. Food. It is. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Mexican food, like from Southern Cali, very good.
Oh yeah.
But you go down to Mexico, like my dad's from like Guadalajara, from Jalisco.
Yeah.
Oh, bro. First of all, that's where tequila comes from. So thank you very much.
But did you drink any of that?
Not that I drink it. I should right now. I got a colon fighting. But it's just the food is so different. But again, Mexico, like I'm sure a lot of regions in Europe and even in Africa and even the Middle East, depending on what region in that country, the foods are very different. Mexico's the same way. America's the same way. Our foods in Southwest food is different than East Coast food and Southern food. And I mean, it's just varies and it comes, but where does that stem from, Jay? That stems from all these people coming from different parts of the world who planted themselves in America, right? You have the South that has, a lot of Spanish, a lot of Southern, a lot of grassroots. You have also a lot of Cajun. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on in the South. Bro, the South is crazy when it comes to food. There's just crazy food down there. But they come from different regions of the world as well,
Exactly.
And I loved it, and where else can you go like to enjoy international food, but in your own country? I mean, that's fabulous. What we should be doing as a society is celebrating the differences, right? The diversity in our nation instead of fighting against them. And I think that's the biggest problem we have is that we see people by their color of their skin and we want to assume because you're that color, you're a bad person. Because you're that color, this is how you think.
You're dumb or you're you're a nerd or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you're a thief or you're lazy or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
A few weeks back, there was this big old crazy thing that happened on TikTok. This female from Venezuela made a rude comment about Mexican women. And brother, did she ever make a mistake? You would be amazed how many people responded to that attack. You don't mess with Mexico, bro, especially Mexican women. It's a lady talk. That tickety talk, dude. So many people responded, and here's the crazy thing about it. You had people from Honduras, from Venezuela, from Brazil, from every part of the Latin countries, from South America, Central America, even Mexican Americans responding, attacking that woman, saying, don't be talking about Mexican women or the culture or the food or blah, blah, blah. Like that girl took her shit down. She's like, all right, deleted it. Because you just don't, in Hispanic cultures, you don't do that. We could talk crap about each other, but you don't talk crap about another country like that.
Yeah, because you know what, you are talking about something that you probably don't have a good grasp of, right? So it's like just like white people talking about black people take offense to that because they're like, well, you've never walked in my shoes, you don't understand what it's like in an everyday deal. And here's kind of one of my things with that. It's like, so if you had the opportunity as a black person, would you want to trade places with a white person? Almost every single one of them is going to say no.
Yeah.
Well, why would that be the case? Why, if you're saying that the white folks have it so much better or what have you, why wouldn't you trade me? If somebody said, would you want to trade places with Elon Musk? Elon Musk is a dork, dude. I'd trade places with him yesterday, man.
But he's African.
He's African, and
y'all can't dance either, bro. So I would have to say no.
But
that was a rule.
But why is it that we complain about other people? This can be anything, race or whatever, and say that they have things better or this or that, yet we wouldn't trade places with them, right? Because, we like who we are, right? And we like our cultures and how we grew up and things that we've been taught and everything. You were mentioning mentioning about, people going to Mexico or people coming from other countries here and everything, one of the things that I would say, the immigration thing is a big deal right now, right? And people going into any country, it's not a problem that you take your culture there, but understand that you need to assimilate to whatever that country already is. And it's like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if you go to, so like that kid that went to North Korea and he like stole a picture of one of the Kim Jong Un or whatever, and they put him to 100 years hard labor and everything, and then he came over here and ended up dying because he was so sick and everything. you know I mean, I don't think that that kid should have went through that, but you have to understand, you went to a country that has a set of rules that you needed to follow and you didn't, right? And it's just like this country, people are trying to defend all these people coming in illegally, and it's like, well, you came in illegally, so you're starting off your journey on the wrong foot. Now, not saying that you can't make up for that and do the right thing, but we can't be expected, like you and I, we say, hey, let's just, let's go to Middle East somewhere and we're going to open a strip club and do all kinds of stuff over there. Do you think they would be okay with that? We're going into their country and just doing what we want, the Americanized version. Now, they'd probably, hang us, shoot us, shoo us off, say, you're not even citizens here. How do you do this? Right. And that's the problem, is that people, you said the word earlier, respect, right? There is this lack of respect for one another. And the thing is that, and I'm using this as an example, but you and I want you to respect me. So everything I say, I want you don't have to agree with it, but you have to listen to me, right? You have to respect me.
Yeah.
But everything you say, I'm not going to listen to. I'm not going to respect you for it, right? And that's the problem we have nowadays. And you and I have been on the political trip for quite a while here, because there's so much involved in that.
Gosh.
And I think, with all of this, I'm not saying that there's not people on the right that aren't, maybe a little racist or bigoted or what have you.
Everybody is.
Everybody has that in them, and groups there, it's everywhere, right? However, it feels to me like the left side of the aisle has so much more vitriol towards all of that stuff. I saw this meme, it was really funny. It said there's three glasses of water and they're all right at the halfway point, and the optimist says the glass is half full, the pessimist says the glass is half empty, and the leftist says the water is racist. So
well, here's a funny thing. What I was going with that comment about that Venezuelan talking about the Mexican, it's amazing how quickly everybody, all the Mexicans and everybody that supported Mexicans, turned racist against Venezuela very quickly. Right? They started attacking about like, well, at least I'm not Venezuelan where I beg for food, or what are they saying? At least I'm Venezuelan where I
eating rats and stuff.
No, I demand food to be more than just burritos and tacos, and want to ride to the border, and then live on the government. It's important to understand this. When someone's attacked, the first thing, so what I got from that is, when someone was attacked because they're Mexican, whatever the case was in this case, I didn't get the first post. I don't know what the Venezuelan girl said, but it created people to turn, and the only thing they knew was to attack them in a almost racist way, where they categorize all Venezuelans as being lazy people. And why? Is because we've seen all those caravans coming through from South America coming to America, right? Because Biden's open border policy. So what happened most recently in one of them was, when they got to Mexico was giving them food so they wouldn't starve, right? They're waiting, they're trying to usher them through, which Mexico doesn't usually do, and they're waving their flags, and then they're demanding, they're throwing our food that we're giving them, which is bean burritos and tacos. We're giving them to them. Right. And they're throwing them on the floor, they're throwing them back, saying, we need more food than this. This is ridiculous. We're not peasants, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, first off, you guys are trying to go into another country illegally. You're waving a flag that's not even our flag. And we're giving you food, and just how you treat us, the hell out of here.
Yeah,
so we shut that border down. We're like, guess what? We're done with you. Right. So then now comes this. So again, I'm going to go back to what you said earlier. Everybody has a little bit of bigotry in them. Everybody is going to find a fault, and when they feel cornered like a little animal, they're going to attack based on race. right? Because that's
Right.
all they have. And to me, that's very cowardly.
It is.
I'm not promoting violence, but put some gloves on, man, and duke it out the good old fashioned way instead of trying to call people names and be racist about things. But the truth of the matter is, we're all inadequate. We're inadequate in one way or another. None of us have are better than anybody else. We might have better morals, standards, but in the scheme of things, we're no better than anybody else. And to
Right.
drop to that level of discrimination, to call someone a name because of their skin color, that to me shows ignorance, right?
It does.
And to me, now the left loves to introduce everything as a race thing, right? We're doing this because we need more, African Americans to do this. We do this because of the Hispanics. But to me, honestly, let's look at it for what it is, and it's just a vote generating machine is what they use it for.
Yeah.
And they don't care about race. That's the last thing they care about, because when you see that little black girl that got raped and killed, where do you see the Black Lives Matter? Where do you see the chaos? Where do you see the demands for justice? No, nothing. It's only when it's the white people who are doing the
A
violence
white police officer.
yeah, then they want justice.
Yeah.
But they don't want justice for their own. They want justice when it suits them for the media. And I'm not talking about blacks themselves. I'm talking about Black Lives Matter. These groups that served zero purpose, but to instigate. These guys are all paid by the left. They're all paid by these people just to instigate, to make more division in our country. But the reality of things is that we all should be looking out for each other, not just for our own race, but for everyone as a society. And you know what's sad about it, and I'm going to say this here, Jay, is that the only things that ever bring us together is a tragedy that impacts all of us. And you've seen it. There was when 9/11 happened. That was no smart plane. It didn't only attack white folks. It didn't only impact the white people. It didn't only impact the New Yorkers. It impacted a lot of people, thousands of people, different colors, different backgrounds, different races, right? And the tragedy of that is what brought people together as Americans, right? No one then flew any other different flag but the American flag, right? Even other nations were flying the American flag in solidarity to us. And I hate to see that happen again, man. I really hate to see, or for it to become that point, to that degree, that we have to come together because of a tragedy. Why do we have to lose more American lives for us to come together as a nation? Because we know what we could do as a nation. We see how powerful we are. And you know who fears that? The American government.
Yeah,
they fear the solidarity that we become as one nation under God, right? And nothing could stop us. But you let the left in, they're going to create that division, that DEI, and they're going to do all these other things, and they create this hatred, So I only pray that we don't get to that point again where we have some kind of tragedy happen that's going to bring us together, and only for a short time, because that's what happens.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I guess to end on that note is the reason that 9/11, we had divisions back then too, right?
We always have.
Racist things and whatever, all these different deals. It wasn't publicized as much because we didn't have all the social media and everything, right? And the news channels didn't pick that up as much. It was happening on the streets, but it wasn't as prevalent and publicized. So all of our petty little things that we have on a daily basis all of a sudden went away, right? It takes a tragedy to make you realize that all that stuff doesn't matter anymore. You think about somebody that has a bunch of things going on in their life and they're worried about bills and, I'm going to break up with my significant other and all these things, my family problems and all this. Then the doctor calls you back and says, you have terminal cancer. All of a sudden, all of those things that were so mentally disturbing you are gone. The only thing that now is disturbing you is that one horrific thing that you were just told. And that's what happened with 9/11, right? You had this thing that impacted everybody all at once immediately. The world was stopped, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew that that's the first time that the United States had been supposedly, and that's for a whole nother episode, tinfoil hat,
again.
was attacked by a foreign adversary, right? First time.
Yeah.
And so, besides for when England did, but we weren't the country we are now. And so it joined everybody together. You're right. I mean, that was the first time that I had seen in our lifetimes where everybody, dude, those flags that people have on their cars now that flap on the two windows,
Mm-hmm.
that are like everybody has sports teams. Back then it was all American flags. They couldn't keep those in stock. They were selling those as quick as they could. So a lot of that stuff, is preventable by us understanding that our day-to-day activities, our day-to-day lives aren't that bad. We were very lucky to be born in the country we're born in, and we are very fortunate, and we need to take that opportunity to know that, all these other people around us aren't out to get us. They just want a good family life and everything. Yeah. Is there a crackhead and a thief here and there? Of course there is. And that's anywhere you go, any country, any color, doesn't matter. You're going to have that kind of thing. Us using race as a weapon, right? Like, I used this example with somebody that I worked with not too long ago. And I said, when we were kids, if somebody was getting to you, they were talking mess about you.
Yeah.
What was one of the first things you hit them back with if you had nothing else? Well, your mama's so
your mama
fat
joke.
Your mama
Get him a mama joke, bro. Get all crazy with a mama joke.
Hit them with the yo mama joke.
Your mama's so fat.
Yeah. So it's intellectual immaturity to use race as a final blow to somebody. It really is. And it's a yo mama joke. That's all it is. It's something a person has nothing better to say, and that's why they go down that route. But
yeah. I totally agree with you on that. But
well, we want to say Happy New Year, because we're a week into this year already. So hopefully you have a blessed 2025. We wish you all the best here. And make sure you take care of one another.
Remember to do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless America.
America.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you next Tuesday.